Okay, so much better. Like, so much better. Okay. Hi, and welcome to Evolve Weekly. Today, we are going to head on over to the state of Nevada and continue our survey and this exploratory study into how to implement a more perfect union. Of course, I am your host, Tigress Sydney Acute McDaniel. We'll go ahead and begin with the affirmation. May I further enlarge our collective and individual understanding on the matters that we will cover, and may I not cause further divide. All right, so here we go. We're going to head on over. I'm going to share my screen. Let's see here. Okay, so here I am in the little box over there. And we're going to head on over to Nevada Legislature. I hope you've had a wonderful week. I hope you're getting rest today. If you're watching this in real time, which can be, for the sake of a convenience or the sake of just colloquialisms, we'll say the entire Sunday window would be watching it in real time. Or if you watch it at your convenience later on in the week after it's posted, I hope that it finds you well nonetheless on whatever day. Okay, let's see here. Okay, so if you've been rocking with me, then you know that the first thing we definitely consider is the visual layout of each website, right? Each state legislature's website. Well, this one, and you probably saw it on my face because I really am not very good at hiding my facial expressions, nor do I really intend to filter my facial expressions or any expression. Okay, so basically, this is really giving me stoic. This is giving me emergency room, hospital vibes. This is giving me no appeal whatsoever. This is giving me very basal, not even formal. Sometimes formal, entails certain standards and certain visual appeal, with arrangement and things of that nature, right? And this is just giving me, let's just put it there so it's there, and that's it. This is, let's just meet our basal requirements, and that's it. And then I'm not really, I'm not impressed at all by the fact that they have so many different links. And I would imagine that even though this is not quote unquote overwhelming for me, and I'm going to use some juxtapose here, so please, understand and give me a little bit of grace when I do so. So it's very underwhelming to me because there's so many links. And for someone who is very committed to this type of research, this type of effort and rigor to look into the dynamism of each state's legislature and really connect myself and be responsible for my own awareness of what's going on in the political arena, I'm underwhelmed because there's just like, why do this? It's like, do you not want me to engage? And then the juxtapose is that I could imagine then it would be overwhelming to someone without the same kind of drivers that I have, right? This may not be your primary interest, but you might be following along because okay, I need to I need to take responsibility for my own political knowledge. So I'm going to follow along with this overzealous chick who's in, in politics or whatever. And you're looking at it and you're like, Tigress, I'm trying to rock with you, but I'm not rocking with that, right? So it's not giving us any love either way. Now, I'm pretty sure there's relevant information. I mean, I wouldn't contest it because, it's pretty straightforward. There's relevant information in session info, interim info, law library, general info. There's just got to be a better way for the layout. And the other state, the irony, right? The irony of the last state that we visited, Missouri, and it was the House of Representatives. It wasn't the Senate. And the House of Representatives website, we just need to talk to the designer, and we need to get them to, kind of duplicate that model across the nation, right? I mean, we haven't looked at all of the state's legislature websites, but wow. Okay, so you have to see what I see. I know you see what I see. Okay, so, all right, Assembly. I would much rather that it just say House of Representatives and Senate, especially for, the convenience, the user friendliness of it all when people visit. I know it's the General Assembly. Many do not know. And it doesn't mean that, they should be vilified for it. And even where we are taking the time to explain and define all the terms that would be in the political arena that others may not know, if they're doing this on their own, or if they go and maybe they miss one episode of, of this 52-week series, and they're like, okay, well, and your average person is just not going to take the time and say, okay, well, let me look it up and see what that is. Okay. But then you want them to click around. Okay, great. So, well, that's kind of funny that they would even have that aspect. That was wild. So you can tell that it's not the same people handling the websites, right? So let's go back. Look at this website here. Let me encircle that. Let's come around. All right, so here, give me a break. No, we don't want to annotate. We want to move you over. Okay, so this is ASM, LEG, state, Nevada, US. Let's go back. No, I don't want to annotate. It's got me an annotate. No. There we go. Okay, we'll go back. And that's just legislative state in Nevada, NV, US. Okay, so the assembly, we can assume maybe they are intending to communicate the House of Representatives only. Please understand that your General Assembly is generally used to describe the entire group, the entire governing body. So the highest governing body, well, right, for the church as well, a legislative assembly, you see. So you understand why I am chewing my words here. Let's see, is General Assembly, is assembly used to refer to House of Representatives only? Remember, I don't know everything. Let's see. Assemblyman, let's see, only if they're at the same level of government. A US representative in the House of Representatives represents an entire state at the federal level, and there are no assemblymen at the federal level. But if one US Senate, but if one US state has a state assembly and another has a state House of Representatives, the two are probably more or less equivalent. Well, I've already said that. So generally, when you think of assembly, you think of the House of Representatives and the Senate as a collective unified body, even though they do have their distinctions, right, separately. Okay, I don't know, let's see, Nevada here, Ballotopedia, official names of state legislatures. So this is important. So this question clearly has come up before with individuals who are more than likely taking it upon themselves, you know, if not individually with maybe a local group, a local voting organization, maybe even their partisan convention, you know, maybe some of the subcommittees are doing it. Who knows? Maybe on, you know, voting education or legislation education. It's very possible. So it looks that this has come up before because Ballotopedia, which I've shown you before, is, for those of you who are familiar with the origin of or the inspiration for the name Ballotopedia, as you see, search the Encyclopedia of American Politics. For those of you who are not familiar with the physical encyclopedia, prior to Wikipedia and, you know, all things internet, it was this collection of books divided normally alphabetically or some other, you know, categorical design, if you will. And it was a huge set of books. It could be a collection of 30 books, 40 books, right? And you could flip through it, and it was effectively a dictionary for information. You know what I mean? Okay, so let's see. That being said, yeah, see, it appears here, assembly. 8 states use names other than House of Representatives for their state house. Those lower houses are the Nevada State Assembly. And the irony, for whatever reason, are you noticing this as well? Let's see if this, because this is very, very interesting psychologically. Very interesting. Okay, so we've answered our question here. And this is a perfect example of the reason, another reason why I'm doing this, because I want you to not be turned away at the aspects of each state legislature's website or the aspects of politics that you don't understand and then not turn back to it. You know what I mean? That you're just okay, I'm completely disillusioned by this entire process, and I'm exhausted. I'm tired of I have to look up every word on every, you know, website page, and really, come on, it's just too much. It's way too much. And so I'm taking out the guesswork, hopefully. We're working out the kinks through this platform, and of course, there will still be things that we will have to overcome as far as knowledge moving forward, because the more that people are collectively aware, the more, unfortunately, those who are on the wrong side of justice will obfuscate or confuse the very basal information that we are becoming more and more aware of, right? Okay, so we can expect that, no biggie, right? We understand that. Right, so now we know assembly for the state of Nevada is synonymous with House of Representatives. Got it. But here is the psychology to which I refer. Look at this. We click over, go to the House of Assembly. All of a sudden we have flash elements. We have a beautiful visual appeal. Let's enter into full screen. Y'all, like, really? I just want to refresh it. Let me refresh it, because I want you to see. You see, everything's moving in. It's popping. It's colorful. It's, look at there. Immediately different feel. Thank you, whoever's doing this. Like it's the House of Representatives seems to have more of a, wait, before I even say that. Now let's go to the Senate, and you'll understand the comparison that I'm making. All right, so we're gonna go here. I'm gonna pull this down. I'm going to go back again. And this time we're going to hit this little button. I'm going to open a link in a new tab. And let's see. Just as I expected. One more time. Follow along with me. Very, very interesting. Very interesting indeed. Look at the difference. I know you see it immediately. Well, let's do it one more time because this is fascinating, folk. Tell me you see it. I wish that you all, right now, I'm not actually going live on this particular day, but I wish that I were so that and I wish that we could see each other so we could have that, that eye contact and communicate like that. Because okay, one more time. And then I'm going to stop. No, one more time. This is the Assembly or the House of Representatives. And this is the Senate. Now that's interesting. That's interesting there, though. I like that. But there maybe some of their first pictures, I don't know. It was concerning me, okay? And still it is a concern because I'm not sure if all of those women, and for those of you who are not aware of Pan-Hellenic Society or fraternities and organizations of the Divine Nine, they appear to be members of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. Let me see if I can get back to them. The pinky, the emphasis on the pinky, that is part of their self-identification, if you will. So I guess that's one picture altogether. What is this? Senator Spearman with Jack and Jill Day guest. Yeah, Jack and Jill, I don't want to overspeak it, and we're not going to, well, we can dive into that just for a second, and then we'll continue on our survey. So let's go right to it. Some refer to it as the boule, the cotillion, these kind of rite of passage, even similar to the quinceañera in Latin American culture. It is basically it is a mentorship program or youth empowerment program for young men and young women, hence the Jack and Jill, right? Okay. And let me come here. Some do not favor it because it promotes a quote unquote bougie society, or again, the boule. Let me see here. And we're going to read directly from their website, and then we'll continue on. And we'll actually, let's start here, okay? Is there a Black upper class? And this is referring to the boule. Let's see. Let's see if I can find it here. For women, there are sororities like Alpha Kappa Alpha and clubs like the Lynx and the Smart Set. For men, there is Omega Psi Phi on historically Black campuses, which claims alumni from Vernon Jordan to former Governor Douglas Wilder of Virginia, and clubs like the Guardsmen and the Boule, right? We're going to go over some of those things as well. Let's come out of this. For the adults, there's the Boule. For children, as you see, there's Jack and Jill, a network of recreational groups that cultivate African-American roots in largely white suburbs. Let's hear directly from them. There are definitely conflicting views, definitely even dissenting views and opinions as it relates to Jack and Jill of America, because they believe that it promotes division in African-American unity, and that it promotes classism within Black America, okay? And then others just believe it to be the Boys and Girls Club of America, specifically for the culture, you know, the African-American culture, okay? So you can check that out in your own time, and you can make you can form your opinion. Please share with me how you view Jack and Jill or the Boule. There have definitely been concerns about their kind of method, their practices. Let's see, cotillion. And look, I can't spell. Can't spell everything. I don't know everything. Boule, right? Or Jack and Jill. And for those of you who don't, let me do this first. Debutantes, you know, it's a form of ball, especially one at which debutantes are presented. So then you have Jack and Jill. Even the sororities and fraternities themselves, like the Delta Sigma Thetas, they have, I want to say they call them the diamonds. I'm not sure. Don't hold me to the nomenclature. Correct me in the comments. Feel free to share that information. We can look it up at a later time, but I still want to focus on Nevada. I don't want to get too far off. But at these cotillions or debutantes, and again, it's effectually almost like this rite of passage, learning manners and etiquette. And I actually used to teach. I still offer that service, but I haven't done a lot of teaching, haven't had many classes on that specific philosophy of thought or lifestyle, if you will. But through this cotillion, through this debutante, the young men and young women, they learn, etiquette, okay? And they also learn leadership and other things, if you will. But yeah, so again, this can be viewed in very conflicting ways. So we see the picture. I would want to get more information before completely basing an opinion, but I think it holds true that if we just visually look at the House of Representatives or the Assembly for Nevada and the Senate images, you get approachable, down to earth, realistic over here on the Assembly or House of Representatives side. And then you get the exact opposite. If not polar opposite, you still have this depiction of classism on the Senate side. And we keep seeing this. And yes, in reality, and let's look up that really quickly. Senate has, each state Senate has more power than House of Representatives. That's the general assumption. So let's just see what we what we pull up here. Let's see. Let's see if we get. So I tend to agree with this statement. Pull this up. So it's not so much as that they literally have more power. Their turnover, their terms are longer. And so their turnover rate is slower than that of the House of Representatives, thus allowing for the Senate to really, or each senator as well, to really have that time and that stronghold in their position to affect whatever change that they are orchestrating. And unfortunately, that can be both negative or positive. So yeah, so I tend to agree with this blogger, because I don't think we'll find anything that just tells us straight out that the House of Representatives is literally less powerful, quote unquote, or least important than the House of Representatives. Let's see. Yeah, okay. Let's go here. I'm trying to make sure to include reputable sources and also survey opinions on the internet, generally so, right? Okay, let's go here. So these are two reputable sources, one, the Britannica, which is another encyclopedia, and then the Capital. And I'm not saying that everything in the Britannica is 100% vetted as accurate, because we've had a lot of fact checking, especially as it relates to historical books and the lies that have been disseminated. We already have that, so you don't have to correct me on that. We know what we're dealing with. But generally speaking, they are reputable sources. All right, and I've gone to the .gov as opposed to the Britannica. Let's just read very quickly, and then, excuse me, then we'll go back. All right, so the House of Representatives and the Senate, what's the difference? The United States Congress consists of two legislative bodies. Boom. There are many similarities between these institutions. Representatives and senators are directly elected by the public. We already know that passing legislation requires the agreement of both of them, right? There are chambers for both in the United States Capitol. Given these commonalities, are there really differences between the House and the Senate? Let's begin to answer the question by reading the Constitution. All right, notice that the members of the House are elected every 2 years, whereas senators are elected for 6-year terms. Do they share the same age and citizenship requirements? Generally, House members must be 25, and I believe it's 30 or 35 for the other way around. No, it's 35 for the president, 30 for senators, right? Okay, and then they have to be a citizen of this country for at least 7 or 9 years. This goes back to what I was, what I clarified. I did a whole video on this, and please go back and check this. I was clarifying or dispelling disinformation that was promulgated by Donald Trump as it relates to Barack Obama and his citizenship. Well, his citizenship really would not have even been a matter of interest as it relates to his eligibility to run and serve as president, because the Constitution does not bar someone who is not born here originally. So if they're not a native of America, they're not barred altogether somehow constitutionally from being eligible to run and serve as president. So the whole birther conspiracy was just completely absurd and imbecilic, to be quite honest, because you can assume citizenship, legally, and then as long as you have it for 7 or 9 years prior to running for office and being elected, you're good to go. You see how reading is fundamental. All right, so let's see here. The House and Senate have evolved into very different bodies. Yeah, They definitely have their own kind of parliamentary procedure. And that's what that is, ways of conducting business, separate rules, right? And of course, there are significantly less senators than there are House of Representatives, and that's because of the, you know, the delegation accounting, all that good stuff. Yeah, for the most part, I think that that is the major difference, but I'm going to save this. Let's see. Did he even answer? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's answered these questions down at the bottom. Very interesting. Let's just read these very quickly. Let's read them online. I think that's worth it. We can go through this pretty fast. Why did the founders place different requirements in the Constitution for members of the House and Senate? Let's enlarge this as well. Go over here. All right. The founders intended the House to be closest to the people. The psychology is matching, the irony of it. And it seems as though they have that well ingrained psychologically, you know, even in their sub or micro culture, right? Because each Senate website that we've been seeing throughout this survey, they seem to hold themselves in higher status. And then the House of Representatives sub website, right? Because there's normally the collective legislative or legislature website, and then you have the Senate there under, and then you have the House of Representatives there under. And ironically, then the House of Representatives website appears to be not so touting of status. People, it's so interesting. If you just look, if you just listen, everything you need to know is right there. Okay, all right, so let's keep reading here. Keep in mind, members of the Senate were not directly elected by voters until the 17th Amendment passed in 1913, and that makes a lot of sense. Hence, there would also be this inflation of status. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not elected, I'm appointed. I'm deserving of Senate status and seat. I can be here because I am entrusted with this position. Okay, all right. And most responsive to their constituents. Wow. Again, so that's clarified. Basically, they're saying that the House, it would be most responsive to their constituents, and the senators would not be. And haven't you seen that too? You've seen that same attitude, like the senators, we are untouchable. I don't talk to you mere people. No. You must be looking for a representative. Okay, all right, so wow. They must run for office often and generally represent fewer people. Senators are expected to be more experienced and less influenced by the ebb and flow of popular opinion. That can also give rise to this arrogance. Similarly, for Juris Doctor or medical doctor or philosophy, right? The PhDs, we see this, unfortunately, happen too often. Now, there are lots of PhDs, lots of JDs, lots of MDs who actually do not, you know, hold this opinion of themselves. And they do remain well connected with reality. But then there are way too many that do not. They feel that, you know, I had this experience, and even where acknowledging the experience, because even you've seen me do it, acknowledging my experience and my expertise in my arena. You know, some of you are aware that I'm a PhD ABD. So acknowledging that, however, is not and should not be the way that someone moves when interacting and engaging the general public, right? So it should, you should be able to, as someone who is experienced, who has an expertise in a particular arena that serves the general public, that person should be able to speak confidently about their experience, share it, so as to establish with the general public that I can assist in this regard because I do have expertise in this arena, without touting themselves as being over the general public somehow, classism wise, or being better than, or privy to this untouchable status. That's ridiculous, and that should not be. But we see that, unfortunately, with power, some, have this inflated arrogance. And then, as you've heard me say a million times over, there is absolutely no difference between arrogance and ignorance. And it's very dangerous. All right. With a small number of members, they can take their time to carefully consider and debate issues. So that's the House of Representatives. Irony. Okay, second question. And I'm going to definitely post this because this is very interesting. According to the Constitution, what other responsibilities in addition to writing legislation are specified for the House and Senate? Okay. All bills that raise money must originate in the House of Representatives. The House has the power to impeach or formally accuse. I've referred to it as much like indictment, right? While the Senate tries impeachment. So they hold the actual trial, right? So they would be the prosecutorial element in a trial process, right? Okay. In addition, the Senate approves treaties and certain presidential appointments, such as ambassadors and Supreme Court justices. Okay. So that can be seen as, maybe having a little more power because they are, responsible for appointing SCOTUS, so that would, and SCOTUS does, kind of set the tone of the law of the land. So you can see it as having more power maybe in that regard. Let's see here. Number 3, suppose each member of the House could speak on an issue for 15 minutes. What would be the length of the debate? Is lengthy debate desirable or undesirable? Under what circumstances? It is, I can answer this question myself. It is not desirable. And even where there will be many, if we were to pose this question right now to the sitting members, okay, of federal Congress and state Congresses, right? I can guarantee you that they will feign that allowing everyone to be heard is part of the democratic process. But I can guarantee you that that is not how it works in reality in the political realm. Not even at the forum level, not even at the partisan convention level. They want you to keep it short, say something that is psychologically appealing, and then sit the fuck down. Okay, but let me read this. If each voting member spoke for 15 minutes to be followed immediately by another speaker, nearly 109 hours of time would be required. That translates into 11 10-hour days of nonstop speeches. Debate is important when considering contentious issues. Nevertheless, given the reality of our large House, members often choose knowledgeable colleagues who represent a point of view supported by others to speak on their behalf. Okay. All right. That was a very, very politically correct way of answering that question. And I gave you the truth, right? Okay. All right. So, and they're both true, but the unadulterated, unadulterated. Wait, hold on. See, I don't know everything. Let's see, unadulterated, I believe it is. Yeah, unadulterated. Not mixed or diluted with any different or extra elements, complete and absolute. That's what you're gonna get from me on a regular basis, right?
Unadulterated.
Unadulterated. All right, so let's go back over, where were we? All right, and then back up. And then we'll have about 20 minutes to do that. Let's see. All right, number 4, what is meant by majority or minority leaders in paragraph 5? All right, the majority leader is elected to lead the party. You already know this information because I gave it to you once before. So let's go to the next question. It is often said that the House of Representatives runs by majority rule, whereas in the Senate, the rights of the minority are upheld. How do the following examples illustrate majority rule or minority rights? A majority of House members can always vote to defeat a minority proposal and pass a bill. B, a new senator is opposed to a bill and asks that it not be placed on the calendar. That sounds like power. All right, so example, illustrates majority rule as a numerical majority always has ultimate control of whether or not to pass a bill. Thus, the wishes of the majority members are followed. The second example demonstrates minority rights. The senator who may have a different opinion than the majority of members can request that a bill not be considered for debate or vote. And this is why we have the term gridlock. And this is why surveying the culture, the subculture for each state's legislature is important to the whole. The reason being the state representatives for both House and Senate, right? They have an impact on the federal, right, seats, okay? So you know that your senator, you have your US senator, right, who serves in that capacity and represents what? The state. And so it is very important that we have a handle on whether or not the person in that position is on the right side of justice or not. Because if on the wrong side of justice, they can wreak havoc when wielding gridlock, like moving it around, manipulating gridlock to their own will to serve the purposes of keeping justice from happening. This is why it's very important. Okay. All right. So let's see. And that's my son. You hear him in the background. All right. Last question, and then we'll move on. What is the meaning of the term precedent? Oh, you know, I love this one. We're going to go over this one more time, and then we're going to go on over to and count up the Democrats and the Republicans. According to the New Oxford American Dictionary, precedent is an earlier event or action that is regarded as an example or guide to be considered in subsequent similar circumstances. The problem is that precedent has become a class in and of itself, okay? And this is another manipulative tool that has been wielded by those who are on the wrong side of justice to keep things as business as usual. And when we hear business as usual, it is generally a negative term because it means that we are choosing not to change. We are choosing to remain the same, even when we see that things are not working. Okay, so precedent can be a very, very bad thing. Now, there's also legal precedent that you've heard me mention, and this is where interpretation of law can set precedent to help us move forward our goals of the transformation of our entire legal system. However, that precedent is incremental. So if we get a judgment that is in favor of helping us achieve justice throughout the United States, it's only incremental, which means, okay, it just happened in this state, just in this county, just in this city. Now we want to try to replicate that across the entire United States. That's when we say sweeping reform, right? That takes for damn fucking ever, okay? All right, so, precedent is a very interesting term. All right, so let's go on back over to the state, and let's get this count done and see what we're dealing with, because I'm not really sure if Nevada is a blue or red state. Let me be completely honest with you. All right, let me move this over here. Okay, so now we know Assembly, House of Representatives. Oh, I already had it pulled up, didn't I? Okay, well, let's go to it. Let's see, does it give us the number offhand? No, doesn't tell us. And I do like the websites that do tell us that, but you can see, look at it, right? You've got all this pop-up, all this fun flash. This is not happening over on the other side, right? Okay. More connected to the people. Isn't that something? Almost like you're the general laborers, Senate, we're the board of directors. We're gonna go play golf. Okay, all right. You deal with the commoners. Okay, here we go, members. Ooh, this is interesting. Okay, so we're gonna have a long scroll. Sometimes a long scroll just has to be a long scroll. You got a lot of folk. Okay, so let's go ahead and count. Let's see if it allows me to print. Does it number them? No, 6 pages. All right, let's come out of it. I was hoping that it was going to number them, get something that told us something, so I could do subtraction as opposed to the entire equation, right? Let's see, hold on 1 second. All right, here we go. All right, so we're going to start Republicans. We're going to start with Republicans as opposed to Democrats because we did Democrats the last go round. All right, so here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 16. Okay. And then Democrats, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. So we've got 42 representatives, 26 Democrats. So that's a Democratic majority. I saw only 1 African-American, and it was a woman. Let me make sure that I'm clear on that. I can't tell here. Yeah. She looks like she might be of Latin American descent. I'm not sure. I have to take a deeper dive. I prefer larger pictures. I imagine that you all do as well. There's definitely some diversity. I'm glad to see that. Check these people out. She looks like she might be younger. And we definitely need younger individuals in office, as I keep reiterating. Let's see, this is good. And she's the assistant majority whip. This is very good. Let's see here. Yeah, there's definitely some diversity here. Definitely. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, so there were maybe 2. Can't quite tell. She might be African-American. Remember, you can't always tell by the pictures, but there's definitely diversity. So I missed 2 people, 2 or 3. Let's see, Cameron Miller, Danielle Monroe Marino. Very interesting. This is good. Asian, Pacific Islander, right? Yeah, this is all good. Or Rentschler, I believe I'm pronouncing that wrong. I'm so sorry. Chandra Summers Armstrong. Oh, there were lots more than, yeah, my eyes failed me. My bad, y'all. So it looks like maybe 5 or 6. and lots of diversity here. Claire Thomas. Okay. Selena Torres. Okay, and that does make sense, in a lot of ways, but still we have a concern here because our speaker pro tem is still a Caucasian white male. And again, let me reemphasize that we're not just intending to vilify the white man because he is a white man, because there are white men who are on the right side of justice and have been on the right side of justice. Their entire family has been on the right side of justice. This has been a lifestyle, or they have decidedly broken off from a family that is not on the right side of justice, and they are vehemently, positively on the right side of justice. It's all very viable. But unfortunately, what we see and what we must take inventory of is the express fact that we see this dynamic too often. We need to see the dynamic of our makeup of governors, not literal governors, but those who are in the collective governing body. We need to see that they represent us collectively and not just the same old, okay? So this is no diss to Steve Yeager, but this is just the same old, right? More of the same stuff that we don't want to see. So I hope that he is on the right side of justice. Let me just see what committee he's on or committees he's on. Assembly, election, contest, growth and infrastructure, judiciary, interesting, and revenue. Okay. Many of the women, here's Chandra. Shannon, this is the one we can't really quite tell. She might even be Grecian. I'm not sure. Axelrod. I don't know. Axelrod, cultural origin. I don't know. Let's just see really quickly. Oh, it is Anglo-Saxon. Okay, so I don't know. All right. Well, that didn't help us out at all. So she might Bill Bray. Let's try Bill Bray. Because a lot of us also have names. I mean, good gracious, mine is McDaniel, right? So we have names that are surnames, that have been passed down and are deeply wound into colonialism and things of that nature, right? So this is Nottingham and Scandinavian. So yeah, that was probably just a surname. Okay. And remember, I've explained to you, a lot of you, that there are Spanish and French elites as well that consider themselves to have the same entitlement of Anglo-Saxon, like the traditional white male that we associate with colonialism. Please don't ever get it twisted that there were Spanish and French elites in that same bracket of folk, right, who participated. I mean, hence the name, right? Christopher Columbus. Okay, yeah. Come on, stay with me. All right, that's the whole history of Haiti. Haiti, right? Okay, so let me go back. I'm going to stop here in just a second because we need to go over to the Senate too. This is very interesting though. Very, very interesting. So, and there are a lot of women. I'm glad to see that on the Judiciary Committee. It's very interesting. Few men, many of the women. I would like to sit in on those. I like the fact that they have inundated that committee. I like that a lot. Okay, let's come back. All right, so we know that blue majority for Nevada House of Representatives. They're connected to the people, so hence we can assume, and this is a scientific assumption, not a ask of you and me, but we can scientifically assume that this is also a reflection of the people's will, right? So the people's will then is more democratically aligned. All right, let's go over to the Senate. Boop, 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 boop. Where did I go? Let's see what we got here. Senators. I mean, come on, look at this. They're not even trying. They didn't even get the, they didn't get the alignment right, friends. They don't even care because they are untouchable, honey. This is the point that I'm making. Look at this. You see the intention on the House of Representatives side, and it's becoming consistent for each state. This is not just something that Tigress McDaniel is making up. This is in front of y'all. I don't have anything to do with these websites. We're doing this in real time. This is in real time. They don't even care to align the text properly on the damn website. Honey. All right, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. 21 of those vote. Let's see how excruciating this is going to be. Okay, so now this over here tells you this is the 81st session. This is the seniority list, order of seniority. And over here, they tell us whether or not they are Republican. So we've got the highest seniority is held by Hardy, Joseph Hardy. Okay. Okay. All right, we're gonna come out. Okay, and then we're gonna go to, let's just see, Dennis. Where's Dennis at? Moses or Moses? Moses. Okay, President pro tempore. All right, let's just see what committees on Senate Education, Finance, Revenue, and Economic Development. Let's see. Yep, he's been in there for quite some time. Okay. And see, they should not be allowed to be in there for this long. This is too long. I know that, and we do have some wonderfully apt legislators, and I mean that collectively, right? So senators and House of Representatives who are wise, you know, there are elders and they are objective and they have their mind and their intentions deeply rooted in, you know, the right side of justice. One particular, Adams, right? Dr. Adams, Dr. Alma Adams. But you want to know why? Because she's not just surveying the voice of her peers. She has a staff of many young and up and coming political advocates and just very apt individuals. She's always surveying the, you know, the intention and will of the people from all their various demographics, right? But unfortunately, again, that's House of Representatives. She's a House of Representative, right? So, and we see that they are more connected to the people. And then you have the senators who are they feel they have entitlement. I'm going to be in the General Assembly until I pass away. This is my form of career. This is my job. I'm going to collect this check and this is what I'm going to do. And he's been doing it. So I think 6 years is enough. I think 6 years is enough. And then we move on and and see, it has to be also in a manner that we pass the torch without disconnection, that the torch of governance, that the torch of leadership is passed on with proper training to the next inception of elected individuals, that they have everything they need to move forward, that they are sufficiently prepared, that it is not overwhelmed, and that it is positioned in a manner that all bills and matters that are before the session prior to the inception of those newly elected leaders, that they have access to that there is a deliberate effort to make sure that they are, intentionally aware of what, what's on the agenda going forward, and that it's not some type of, okay, I'm going to pass the torch to you, but it's not lit. It's not lit. You're going to have to find a way to light that torch and figure it out. Bye. Or you get this, because they stay in these positions. And I can tell you what has been said to me on the campaign trail. I can definitely share that. They definitely say things like, the new generation of leaders won't understand why we do things and have done things the way we've done them for so many years. Do you hear that? Do you hear the disdain for change, the disdain for self-reflection, taking self-inventory, for strategic planning, for even trying to make, and improve upon a system of governance? They don't care. This is how we've done it. This is why we do it. We continue to do it. This is the game that we fight. And it works, even though it doesn't really work. And that's all you hear. You hear a bunch of back and forth, speaking from both sides of their mouth, both corners of their mouth, and not really making any damn sense whatsoever, right? And they say, well, this is why we run so vehemently and we stay in these positions, because and some of them even look at themselves as very noble in their efforts to stay in that position for damn ever, because they are fighting the good fight against the other side of the aisle, right? Against their friends on the other side of the aisle. And we're in this position. And if someone new comes in, they're not gonna know all that history, behind our fight, right? And they're not going to know exactly how to go up against the quote unquote proverbial Goliaths of the Republicans who are so cutthroat. Well, then damn it, why don't you share? Why don't you hold them up in the process of transitioning them into their newly elected seat, instead of just saying, peace, I'm out. You didn't have an attitude. You didn't elect me back in there because y'all want some younger people. Well, then do what you do. Good luck. No, that's not what this is about. And too often, yeah. So they really don't want you in office. When I say you, they don't want new people in office. They don't want individuals like myself, even though I am considered middle age at this point, being 44. They don't want 20-year-olds in office because they're, well, you don't know. I've spoken out about this. I don't necessarily have any issue with a 20-year-old being in office. I have an issue more specifically with a 20-year-old being in office and not embracing the rigor. I have a problem with anyone being in office, no matter what their age, and not embracing the rigor. So, and I'm always encouraging you all, 20, 25, 40, any and everyone under my age, to be honest, we need you in office. We need you in office. But you can't just get into that seat and just say, okay, well, all I have to do is sit here. All right, I'm here. Wait for roll call. Here. All right, that's all I had to do, right? That's nothing else necessary. I've got on my blue suit and I'm here. No, you can't do that. You're going to have to read the statutes. You're going to have to familiarize yourself with the culture and even subculture of your particular legislative body, right? Whatever state that is. You're going to have to know the lay of the land. You're going to have to speak to actual people, humans, you know, that are your constituents, the people that you're serving. You're going to have to do these things. You're going to have to embrace the rigor. This is why they don't take a lot of us seriously, because they know that we see it too often as just this cloak of status, right? And we see our leaders as untouchables. And you have to at least give them, I mean, you can't take away from their assumptions there, because there is some validity to those assumptions, even if minimal, because they're thinking, okay, well, what you gonna do in the sea? You think that it's just all, you know, glitter and gold, and that's not what it is at all, right? So if you embrace the rigor, then it serves us all better, because then maybe even, Lord have mercy, maybe even some of them will just voluntarily go and set their asses down and say, oh, well, they got it. I can see that they're making an actual effort to embrace the rigor, and they're just not going to let our legislative process go to high hell. Even as it relates to the ideologies behind defund the police. I understand them. I understand how they can be implemented effectively without alienating and vilifying good police officers, right? Because that's not what it's about. It's not about vilifying good police officers. It's about getting rid of our corruption. That's what it is at the end of the day, right? But if you're just coming in and you're just like, okay, I give a good speech at the protest, but I have no intentions of reading a statute. I have no intentions of doing any of this rigor. I don't want to know nothing about legislation. I just want to come in and be like, we changing this now. Unfortunately, as much as that would be wonderful in so many different regards, when we just say, you know what, look, tomorrow, I was elected yesterday, tomorrow, we are defunding the police, boom, sign this, tell Joe to sign that, and we're done. That's not really how it works. Again, there's lots of us, including myself. I wish that legislative sweeping reform could be done overnight with one sign of one pen, done. It does not currently work that way. And to change the system that governs us, unfortunately, will take that intentional rigor. I know some of you were thinking, oh, she's going to say time. No, we can get the time issue down. We can get this to happen faster, but you have to run for office and you have to embrace the rigor behind the legislative process in order to say we're going to change the Constitution to better fit our needs, to better fit the concepts, the ideology, the logic in Jefferson's letters that simply states that every 19 years, we need to take a look at this again and see if this is all right for what we do in the future, right? All right, so this is very interesting. Yet another very interesting layout. And so even the point that I'm making here, I didn't even count, and you're probably wondering, why didn't she count? I didn't count because, let me show you. We just determined that the senators, whether literally or not, they have more of a stronghold. And therefore, at the very least, the facade of more power. And sometimes just the facade of a thing, of a force, is enough to be forceful. You see what I mean? Okay, so you have the seniority leader here who's Republican. Okay, we'll go ahead and count it real quick. But the point I'm making is that very likely he has quite a bit of influence, on his peers. All right, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 Republicans, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 Democrats. So literally, there is a Democratic majority. I bet if we sit through any of those meetings, and I bet if any of them were to see my video right now, they would smirk and say she's absolutely right in her analysis that there is very likely a lot of political bullying intentionally that is going on in those Senate sessions. And it is probably increasingly driven by the Republican agenda. Okay, so, and especially now with the, the intention across the United States and at the federal level to push back, if you will, on the Democratic agenda. Because, right now Republicans are under too many are under the belief that somehow we want to eradicate the Republican Party in its, in toto, and just silence the voice of any dissenting opinion. That's not necessarily the Democratic way, because that wouldn't make any sense. The Democratic way is we definitely want to hear other opinions. Those opinions just need to be rooted in human rights. Duh. Like I just sometimes, oh boy, some things are so hard to process. So hard. Some people just have such a time with common sense, oh Lord, such a time. Okay, so basically we are done for the day. We are. This has been very interesting, and we're seeing some very consistent opportunities for improvement in our understanding of processes by Senate and House of Representatives. Also, we're seeing a very necessary opportunity to redefine the roles of Senate leaders and senators in general and House of Representatives. And not so much as, I'm not saying necessarily legislative wise, like not statutory wise. That's important as well. But we need to redefine and reconceptualize and eradicate these inherent status privy that is going and that is applied to each one of these groups, right? And there needs to be a leveling and a return to common sense and a return to reality. Because clearly, even the senators themselves believe that they are deserving of this facade of status. All right, so, wow. Thank you again for joining me, Tigress Sydney Acute McDaniel, your host of Evolve Weekly, and this series, this 52-week series on how to implement a more perfect union. Please join me again. We'll head on over to another state next week. Have a wonderful week.